Today we're going to talk about the different communication settings, also known as the different communication environments where we interact. This is also called communication context by some scholars. Communication settings differentiate interactions based on a number of participants and the extent to which the interaction is characterized by formal or informal exchanges. So, we actually have four communication settings. First, we have the intrapersonal communication. When you say intrapersonal, this refers to yourself. Okay, so you're like talking to yourself. Next, we have the interpersonal communication, where you are communicating with another person. Next, we have the small group communication, which consists of three or more people. And next, we have public communication, where you're going to communicate with the public, with the audience. All right. So this picture shows a man talking to his picture or talking to himself, right? Which relates to our very first communication setting, the intrapersonal communication. Again, when you say intra, it means within. Okay, so this is defined as the interactions that occur in your mind when you are talking with yourself. How often do you actually talk to yourself? Or do you talk to yourself every once in a while? I think everybody of us talk to ourselves every once in a while. Okay, this shapes self-perceptions, and in managing communication apprehension, that is the fear associated with communicating with others. So sometimes when we talk to ourselves, we actually practice communicating with other people, or this actually helps when we try to communicate with other people, especially if we are not used to talking to strangers or talking to people we just met. Okay, so it's like it lessens your fear of talking to other people because you're practicing with yourself first. Self talk here is a means to improve your self concept and self esteem. So, if you have observed when you talk to yourself, this improves your confidence or your self esteem. And sometimes we find solutions to our problems when we talk to ourselves. Okay. All right, so the next picture here shows two people trying to solve a problem. So, this is an example of interpersonal communication since they are obviously talking to each other and it's like they're trying to solve a problem they have at school or at work. Communication. It's defined as the informal interaction. This refers to our people who have an identifiable communication setting with each other. So when you say informal, this is how you communicate with the people, um, like your friends or your family members, right? Or your neighbors. Okay, because you don't have to be very formal when talking to them. I think the only time that you have to be formal is when you talk to people you just met, you talk to strangers, or you talk to people at school or at work. For example, when you talk to your classmates that you just met, or when you talk to your teachers at school, or when you talk to your boss or your manager, you have to be very formal. But here, you don't have to be like that. Okay, so it's like talking casually to your family or friends. So these are the examples: talking to a friend between classes, visiting on the phone with your mother, texting or chatting online with your brother, and comforting someone who has suffered a loss. All right, so that's for the interpersonal communication. Next picture. We have a group of people talking to each other, but this picture actually focuses on just two people here, these two women. All right, so we have small group communication. This is actually defined as a conversation that involves 3 to 20 people who come together to communicate with one another. And it can occur in face-to-face settings as well as online, right? Example is through Facebook or through Messenger, through what else? Through Twitter, through Instagram, and so forth. Okay. Examples include a family or a group of friends, a group of classmates working on a project, and a management team in the workplace. Okay, and last but not least, you are seeing a picture of a man talking to an audience. Okay, so this is an example of our last communication setting, the public communication. So here it's defined as the communication delivered to audiences of more than 20 people. Okay. It includes public speeches and other types of mass communication that you may experience live in person or on a delayed or mediated basis, just like what we are seeing as of the moment or these past few weeks, right? Because of the upcoming election. So those are examples of public communication. And also, just like your classes online, it's also considered public communication. Okay, so let's have a quick review of the 4 communication settings. We have the first one, the intrapersonal communication, in which you're going to communicate or where you are communicating with yourself. Second, interpersonal communication, where you have to communicate or where you communicate with other people. Third is small group communication, which consists of 3 or more people. And last but not the least, public communication, in which you're going to communicate with an audience of more than 20 people. So that's it for today, and see you next meeting.